Hi. How are you?
You covering city council tonight too?
No.
Okay. What, they banned you? Or morning call banned you?
No.
Is this started?
Can't ban me.
Uh,
Why would they ban me?
No, I'm only kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Lead me not into temptation.
I got a wicked sense of humor. I apologize.
I believe it's 5 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is to say Happy New Year to everybody. And hope it's a joyful and healthy one for everybody. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of December 7th meeting. Are there any comments, changes to the minutes as previously distributed? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as distributed. So moved by Mr. Duffy, seconded by Mr. Diaz. All in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. We'll reserve public comment on all matters until the resolutions are put forth. Old business.
I don't get elections.
Huh?
We missed elections.
Oh, elections, I'm sorry. Item 4, elections of officers. The election of officers, a slate of officers have been established, and the slate is, the chairperson is myself. The vice chairperson who has agreed to serve, Mr. Lovett was in that position before, is Mr. Fuchek. The secretary is Mr. Torres. The treasurer is Mr. Dudkin. And the assistant secretary is Mr. Fuchek. He can serve in 2 offices. And he's
That's a lot of work in that assistant.
Is available for attestations readily. So their nominations are open from the floor if there are any from the board that are different from that. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to elect those officers, that slate of officers.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dudley. Was there a second? Second by Mr. Diaz. Is there any comments from the floor, from the public?
A quick question. The nominations, would they be subject to the Sunshine Law or no? Because apparently you made a decision to nominate all the people.
The action is taking place in the public meeting.
No, but the nominations,
They nominated in a public meeting.
but they discussed it privately. They discussed who's going to be nominated. I'm just asking a question.
Actually, the answer is this is complying with the Sunshine
Okay.
Law. Whether there were individual conversations is a.
Okay.
There was no meeting called to do that.
Okay.
There were no individual discussions other than to determine that Mr. Fuchek was willing to serve
Oh, okay.
as the vice chairman. That's the only individual discussion that had occurred, I can attest to,
Okay,
before me.
no problem. Just asking, thanks.
The others are assumed to have wanted to maintain their positions if they didn't raise an objection. All right, there is a motion by Mr. Bedkin, seconded by Mr. Diaz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So I get to serve as chairman.
The elections will now occur on a regular annual basis, and, which is a good time, first meeting of the year. In effect, it will be like a reorganizational meeting when there's a change of membership for 2 years.
That's we should get back on this
Schedule.
correct track. On the new business, resolution R 2017-114. That is a resolution to approve Steve Bamford, who is our new executive director, to be chief executive officer of the authority. You want to explain that?
Yeah, basically, resolution 114, 115, and 116 is housekeeping necessitated by the because if and when he has to go to show to the bank or whomever his authority to act on behalf of ANIZDA, these are the copies of these resolutions is what he was going to use.
Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution R 2017-114?
So
Moved by Mr. Fucci. Seconded by Mr. Torres. Are there any comments by the floor? Comment from the board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution is passed. The second and next resolution is R 2017-115, which is approval of officers signing documents. And this, again, you can explain, Mr. Solicitor.
basically, more of the same. We are now reconfirming what we have in the past, except now we have an executive director. And candidly, we had not authorized the assistant secretary for prior resolution. So what we're doing is authorizing these officers to act on behalf of the authority when called upon to do so. And again, whenever we go to the bank and we open an account, we have to verify who we are. And this is another way to help do that.
And we spent an hour doing that the other day. So, resolution R 2017-115. Is there a motion to approve that? So moved. Moved by Mr. Duncan, seconded by Mr. Torres. Is there any discussion from the floor and the public? Not. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 2017-115 is. Next resolution is R 2017-116, amending resolution R 2014-48 and R 2016-87. And I believe that deals with the issue of my appointment of members of this board and the executive director to positions on the condominium association. And it has been my choice to appoint, in addition to Ole Fuchek, who has acted as the president of that condo association, I seeking to appoint Steve Bamford, who's the executive director, and Nelson Diaz. And Diaz has been kind enough to agree to serve, and I think it's a good choice because of his background with real estate ownership and development. So thank you, Nelson, for your willingness to serve as an additional person on the condominium association. Is there a motion to approve R 2017-016? Moved by Mr. Dutton. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Torres. Is there any discussion from the public about that? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Resolution R 2017-116. Now the resolution R 2017-117 deals with the only significant matter before us today, which is the application of Vault 634 LLC for the financing of a new project. And Mr. Jandel, Zach Jandel. There are two Jandels here. There are several Jandels here.
Yes. You allow me to
Yes.
just refresh through the resolution. Sorry, Zach.
Oh, take your time.
I won't take your thunder from that. Let me just point out that this project has been reviewed by the Project Review Committee, for those of you who don't serve on that committee. And they recommended that it move forward for formal approval by you, the authority, as a whole. Now, with regard to the Project Review Committee, because you saw what you're going to see today previously, one of the items that has changed in that presentation is that the credit facility will be with the People's Security Bank and Trust Company, not the bank that was presented before the Project Review Committee. They decided that for their reasons they were able to change some of the financing, I assume more beneficial to the project, and therefore when they moved from the Project Review Committee to this process, they presented to me what is a term sheet from People's that with some minor changes, it will be translated into a commitment letter which we will review and approve as council. But I want to point that out to you so that when the Project Review Committee is saying, wait a minute, this is not the fact we talked about before. And I'll let them deal with whatever those ramifications are. So from the standpoint of the balance of this resolution, it is the standard and typical resolution that we review and approve with regard to any project that comes to you for formal approval. We will still have to go to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for approval, and this project will also have to be submitted to Moody's for their waiver. That all occurs in due course.
Isn't there one other change in that I think the amount that is being financed is less than what was presented?
Well, yes, we are in that process of that financing, they'll explain that because they basically broke it into three pieces now where.
Yeah. So it's less than what we looked at that project.
Which means less revenue for us.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you all for your time tonight, or as I happily welcomed Jerry as when wishing him a good morning as I walked in.
Zach is a young man, just. New Year's Eve was particularly difficult.
Well, as I said to you before, when you did it before the Project Review Committee, you did a phenomenal presentation. So you're excused for one little.
So tonight we wanted to talk. We've been in front of this committee before for the waterfront project, but tonight we were talking. We want to talk about Vault 634, which is a sister company to Chandler Properties, and something I'll elaborate on in just a moment. So before we begin, the developers behind the project are myself and my father, Mark. We partnered first in 2011 for Chandler Properties when we launched into a number of historic redevelopments throughout the West Park region of our city, obviously outside the NIZ. And about 6 months after starting our Chandler Properties LLC, we became involved and actually one of the lead developers on the waterfront project, occurring just about half a mile north of our site today. When we launched Chandler Properties, our focus was on Allentown. Mark and I are 4th and 5th generation Allentonians, respectively, and we really have always had an appreciation for architecture, which actually translated from my grandfather way back when. In fact, my grandfather had an immense appreciation for everything classic, and we actually have a Model T in this museum itself. So we do have a massive appreciation for historic, classic preservation. So when we launched Chandler Properties, we wanted to focus on really preserving Allentown's core assets while rebuilding a number of its underutilized properties. So some examples of our background, we do new Class A office space construction. American Bank, which is located at 4029 West Tillman Street on the west side of Allentown, is 100% fully occupied. It's a Class A build that was completed in 1997. We did take on the former Carolee building on 15th and Hamilton Street. It was actually built by Alexander Scheimer of Scheimersville, partnered with General Trexler and Portland Cement to build a beautiful estate right off 15th and Hamilton Street. We concluded this restoration in 2011 and have occupied the property as our headquarters. We've since consolidated the estate from two properties into one by purchasing the adjacent carriage house, which was original to the property, and are restoring that as additional office space today. The Taylor Mansion, which was owned and built by John Taylor, who owned the Globe Store, which was located on the site of where the PP&L Center is today, is another one of our historic redevelopments. And obviously the waterfront project, which is probably the largest and most well-known of our portfolio, is a 1.25 million square foot mixed-use campus, which is occurring on the former site of Lehigh Structural Steel. Again, about 13 acres in the north and 13 acres in the south of the Tillman Street Bridge, just a short distance from here. But tonight we're here to talk about 634 West Hamilton Street, which was the former headquarters of the Lehigh Valley Trust Fund. The building today is about 15,000 square feet gross because of modern codes, lack of ADA compliancy. It is substantially less than that in regards to rentable square footage, but we're looking to fix that. So if you look at the building, it does boast a number of historical assets. The ceiling itself is about 48 inches of hand-laid plaster, all gold leafed over time. There's the 800 square foot Victorian stained glass ceiling, which is more evident in this picture. There are a number of murals actually lining the walls, which we're looking to preserve behind some additional architectural assets throughout the restoration process here. The floor has a beautiful marble finish, and then obviously a better look at the ceiling itself. Now the front of the building is located directly across from City Center 2 today. As you walk out, you can see the marble fluted pillars, the stone lion's head, and just an absolutely stunning facade. The building was, since actually becoming vacant in 1988, sold a piece of its land to the county. That side piece was actually torn down and utilized for a side entrance, but we have since acquired that land. So throughout the presentation, you'll hear about 634, 636 West Hamilton, as well as the adjacent county land which we purchased in 2014. This map is very familiar to everyone in this room, I imagine. But here you have Hamilton Street and 7th. You have the PP&L Center located directly on the corner of 7th and Hamilton. And a number of the redevelopment projects occurring throughout Center City. The goal here is actually the Lehigh Valley Trust building. So you'll have the county building directly to the rear of the building, and then obviously the Hamilton Restaurant and Kitchen, a number of new restaurants and ventures that have popped up since the conception of the NIZ. So there is a significant amount of investment occurring directly around our building. So when we first looked at the project, we looked at initially the building history. The property was first, or the company was first established in 1886, and that is the Lehigh Valley Trust Fund. It occupied 636 West Hamilton Street. In 1911, 634 and 636 West Hamilton Streets were combined to form the Grand Halls of the Lehigh Valley Trust Building, which was home to the Lehigh Valley Trust Company, one of the largest banks in the Lehigh Valley at the time. In 1968, the Lehigh Valley Trust Company underwent consolidation and became Industrial Valley Bank. And then in 1988, Industrial Valley Bank closed the front doors of its branch for the very last time. The building has passed ownership a number of times since that day, but has sat vacant, with the exception of a few private parties that were held at the 2004, I will never downplay my father's intuition, but really the building was purchased in order to preserve the architectural beauty of the project. This was far before the years when Allentown was still struggling a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that we restored it as much as we could at the time and preserve the architectural assets behind the front door of the building. So we embarked on a few minor restoration efforts, and then finally in 2014, after the NIZ was introduced into Allentown, after we had initially embarked on the waterfront project, and with our company growing, we announced 634 West Hamilton Street as the new home to Vault 634 LLC, which will be a wedding and event venue in the heart of Allentown. The reason why there's such a gap between 2014 and today, we did focus a lot of our company's attention on the waterfront project, which is significantly larger and requires a little bit more attention. Our primary model is making sure that, above all else, we introduce quality into our projects in order to really lend to Allentown's development core. So now with our company has grown substantially since that day we announced Vault 634. We have decided that it's now time to put it back on the agenda and into our project mode. So once we purchased the building, we saw this 15,000 square foot hall, marble, plaster, and steel. And while very beautiful, it definitely had its challenges. So the first, at a recommendation of a member of the city, we looked at converting the space into office. Unfortunately, with today's modern telecommunications, wiring, electrical needs, etc., we realized that drilling through quite literally feet of steel, marble, and plaster is not conducive to the historical integrity of the building. So next we looked at restaurants, and while our company, our family was founded on deals around restaurants, which eventually led to my grandfather winning 8 turkeys at the Allentown Fair a number of years ago, we have decided that restaurateurs are not quite the industry we want to embark on. We'll leave that to the experts. So after thorough market analysis and market research, we decided that the wedding industry, event industry, was really the best route for this project. So if you look at Pennsylvania as a whole, the number 1 and number 2 areas for weddings and large-scale events in the state are Philadelphia County and Allegheny County, quite substantially. The 3rd largest area within the state for weddings and events is Lehigh Valley, with about 5.14% of all events happening statewide. We'll get to that in just a moment. And then Bucks and close follow up. But some additional stats that went to our decision. Throughout the Great Recession, there was only 1% standard deviation in the wedding and event industry. So while a number of other industries were hurting dramatically, the wedding and event industry itself remained fairly steady. The national average wedding spend is an all-time high. Nationally, it's right around $29,000 per wedding. And of that $29,000, $13,385 is at the all-time high for the actual venue spend. So what these key stats have told us is that we are located within the 3rd largest wedding industry in the state of Pennsylvania. There's very little deviation in sales throughout even the worst of economic recessions. On an average, it's the highest the country's ever seen in regards to wedding and event spending. And frankly, the national venue cost is at an all-time high as well. So after combining all these statistics, we looked at the venue and started assembling our core team of design and development professionals. Next, we looked at local competition, and actually, as Matt and I spoke a little while ago, it's a very niche market what we're looking to go directly compete with. So it's basically venues of approximately 250 capacity seated that are historically reused. The famous millennial market today is really looking for the niche venue, something that's unique and cool, so to say, because they want that experience that people leave and they still talk about the venue even after the guests have all left. So if you look locally at something that would, or 3 instances that would listed as direct competition, it's Hotel Bethlehem, which is about 5.5 miles away, Bank Street Annex over in Easton, Pennsylvania, which is about 17.4 miles away, and quite literally the exact same concept that we're proposing. And then Stoke State Castle, which is based in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is about 37.5 miles away. And all of our market research has shown that the people looking for that unique venue are willing to travel. So whether it's from the Philadelphia market or the Bucks County market, we can easily pull additional foot traffic and potential clients into the Lehigh Valley by offering that niche venue. So next we really looked at the floor plan. This is the building as it exists today. We have Hamilton Street running along the front of the building and 7th Street running directly adjacent to it. The county courtyard we discussed is located right here. So if anyone's actually been in the building before, it's quite fantastic. We have 2 antique vaults or 3 antique vault doors on the first floor and additional vaults downstairs. There's some additional cleanups and storage areas, a light well that was part of the building many years ago and has since been used for stormwater management, and then a spiral staircase leading down to the basement. Here's the transformed product. Here again, you have Hamilton Street. A lot of the historical elements of the building are being preserved. It is not our intention in any way to compromise the historical integrity of the property. We are, however, adapting it to make sure that it has top-of-the-line audio and visual, as well as some ADA compliancy assets. And then in addition, on the first floor primarily is the introduction of a full kitchen. This will allow the building to ultimately convert to a full restaurant if that's the route we want to go. In the meantime, there is no plan for that, but we like to have contingencies and make sure that we can scale. The 2-foot stairways on either side of the property are being removed and being replaced with a swooping marble stairway. And probably most interesting on the first floor is the vault bar. We'll actually preserve the vault door, but cut the entire concrete and steel side on one side of the vault, converting it into a vault bar, which will be a signature asset of the property. Similar to, it's actually Del Fresco's now down in Philadelphia, where you can actually dine within the vault. We'll be introducing a similar concept on a much smaller scale. The vestibule itself is really used for 2 primary reasons. First of all, ADA compliancy. Second, with the introduction of an elevator bank, the secondary means of egress from the basement as well as the second floor. And then frankly, on the second floor, there'll actually be a sky deck overlooking the proposed innovation campus, which is being proposed by J.B. Riley and the City Center Investment. The interesting part about this project, which is, I believe, unique for ANIZDA, the gold here, which is a little faint with the projector. This is the 634, 636 West Hamilton Street, which is located inside the neighborhood improvement zone. The area in gray is actually outside the neighborhood improvement zone. That is land that was not formally included within it. So we purchased this strictly for the ADA compliancy and secondary egress. But this is the building as it stands today. So just to refresh the plans, these 2 sets of stairways come out. A swooping marble stairway will reach up to a level that will be constructed on top of these 2 vaults, and then a secondary stairway will be used to access the top of this. The floors, the walls, everything will be retained and preserved. The ceiling will be outfitted with a brand new state-of-the-art lighting system that will basically make it seem like it's natural light, even though it is covered up by a rooftop skylight. Then this vault, this will actually get cut open, and that will become the vault bar. Floor 2, we currently have a front mezzanine, which we call the north mezzanine on this slide, and the southern mezzanine, 2 vaults below and stairways. After transformation, you can see the swooping marble stairway once again, the secondary stairway up to the top floor, and then the rear rain well, which is no longer used for anything other than, frankly, things blow back there and get to clean it out, will be fit out with not only utilities, but storage for tables and chairs, as well as a secondary service area that will house a dumbwaiter, which will go directly to the kitchen below in order to ease caterers' delivery of food. The mezzanine up top will be the primary seating location, and then again, you have the lobby and the sky deck. The neat part about the venue is the northern mezzanine is already fit out with a sound system, so the band will actually stand or set up on the top of the front mezzanine, playing down overlooking the guests of the wedding itself, which creates a pretty unique and attractive vibe for the building. And once again, it is versus non-ANIZDA. This is the secondary, this is the top floor. These windows will, all of these shades obviously come out. These windows will be replaced with faux windows, which will actually serve as facades to the utility storage and service locations behind it. And then this panel will be removed and used to access the annex. These, just a note I always like to make, these chandeliers you see here have already been removed and replaced with Hesse chandeliers. And the third Hesse chandelier will actually hang from this medallion up here. So again, we're trying to purchase back a number of downtown assets and reunite them back in the centers. And then what people are most excited about is the speakeasy lounge in the basement. Right now, primarily used for storage. There is a coupon booth room as well as a downstairs vault. After transformation, all of the storage area will be converted over to a bar lounge area for speakeasy events, both for weddings as well as right now they're being proposed for arena nights in order to draw additional traffic downtown and give local restaurateurs an outlet for additional revenue, which we'll get to in just a moment. But a lot of this area will still be used for mechanical. The display vault will be converted to a red wine cellar, and then additional men's, women's, and family bathrooms will be introduced downstairs, in addition to the elevator chemical rooms, and the stairway that will go up to the first floor. And here you can see some of the brass coupon booths that were left over in the building, which we preserved over time. So after we looked at everything else, obviously parking was a concern that we needed to address. So we looked at the parking study that was conducted by the city of Allentown a number of years ago and located a number of local parking structures. In addition to that, we reached out to a number of valet companies, both within the Lehigh Valley and Philadelphia markets, who are used to high traffic areas. And after analyzing these parking structures, as well as opening up lines of communication with local buildings, as well as the parking authority, have come to the conclusion that parking will not be an issue. Most of the time what you're looking at is carpooling between guests anyway, and with 250 person seated capacity, most of the shared parking studies are completely in compliance with our parking demand. So parking itself is not an issue, but just to make sure that from a marketability standpoint that we really did drive that home, we have factored a valet service into every single event cost. So a valet will be serving in front of the building and can be used for all sorts of occasions. So the process, which differentiates us a little bit from most other venues locally. The nice part about our venue is it has marketability already. Without spending a dime in marketing, with the exception of a website design many years ago when we first announced the project, have already witnessed extreme demand. We've had people call and basically state that they're willing to position their date of their wedding around the availability of the event. So what we're looking to do is actually bring in a full-time event concierge who will sit down with our potential clients, walk them through a whole process, and streamline this in order to make it as easy as possible. So once the bride or groom or event holder come in and sit down with their concierge, they'll select their building package based upon the number of guests they have, whether it's 40 or 250, or for a non-seated event as many as 500, 550, based on the report we got from the fire marshal. We can house up to 600 guests, although that's more nightclub, and that's not something we're really looking to pursue. So once they pick their building package, they pick their bar package, we will have a full restaurant liquor license on site. After their bar package, they go through their extras. And their extras could be anything from a photographer to the caterer to the videographer to the band. They can pick whatever they want in line with their budget, which creates a very versatile and affordable wedding package. And then at the end of the day, this concierge consults with all the professionals that we spoke to over time and consolidates the bill into one invoice that we bill to the consumer. So rather than get 30 different invoices from 30 different contractors, to get one nice and neat bill itemized coming straight from our event concierge. Another program that we've talked about over time is, again, we are the 4th and 5th generation Allentonians, so the city means very much to us, and the activity that's already occurring in the heart of the city is extremely important. So we've opened up lines with people like Donnie Kadrides at the Hamilton Kitchen Restaurant, and we formed what we're calling the Hamilton Street Partners Program. And what that allows us to do is reach out to restaurants, local retailers, hotels, say florists, tailors, dry cleaners, anyone located along the Hamilton Street corridor, and actually open up lines of communication, form agreements so that we can help them open up additional lines of revenue streams by utilizing our space and speakeasy lounge on non-event nights that we're having. So say that there is a Elton John style performance coming into the P&L Center, and Donnie is dramatically overrun. We can actually work with them to open up the speakeasy as well as other areas of the building and help drive revenue. We can also utilize places like the Renaissance Hotel as a preferred vendor and drive as much business over to either the Renaissance or the Holiday Inn downtown, and any other situation you can think of with local vendors along the Hamilton Street corridor. And we're really looking to push as much traffic to the center of Allentown as we can. So even on non-event nights at the arena, if we can get 250 to 300 people downtown to really walk around, populate our restaurants, and increase the foot traffic, would be very beneficial to the city as a whole. So if you look in summary at our project, We're basically going to be utilizing the architecture that you just simply can't build today. The building was built in 1911 by utilizing the stained glass, the marble, the antique plaster, any number of architectural elements involved with the building itself, tying it to the blossoming wedding industry, and then utilizing the company that we've already established. We have resources internally at, say, Janick Properties. We can utilize them, minimize overhead, and really produce a premier product at a affordable rate for the venue. And then really just activate another line of Hamilton Street's district. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Vault 634.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Chamber from the board?
My only comment, I'm disappointed, Zach, that in your timeline you didn't mention the my law firm spent together after that one class of collapse.
Yeah, I was going to, but I figured, you know, look at the right side.
It's a very magnificent building. It's a great, it's not even really adaptive, just to use.
Anything else? Any, we have a resolution R 2017-117. Can I have a motion to approve R 2017?
Can I ask this one, what's the size of, the resolution doesn't talk about, you haven't talked about financing needs or anything, what is the scope of?
We do talk about that.
Well, then I don't see.
You start with a 15,000 square foot building.
It's in the book, it's not in the resolution, okay.
No, it's in the resolution.
All right, then point it out, let me.
Whereas, on the first page, the financing component will be what is known, we'll call it the Lehigh Valley Trust portion of the building. Not the annex that they're building, which is going to be an elevator and an walkway into the building.
All right, okay, I actually see what it's saying.
And so this financing that you'll be working with is $2,057,804.
Okay, thank you.
And I, for one, think this is an excellent opportunity to see one of the smaller projects from a financing standpoint, an example of our board financing a smaller project, which I hope to see more of along Hamilton Street and along the hills. Because it is possible that with the right kind of use to finance a smaller project than the $100 million one for 10 million, tens of millions of dollars that we get financing. And I'm hoping that our executive director, it's one of the charges that I've given him, is that to try and seek out and work with the owners of property to try and help them. You're sophisticated enough to know how to use that, but some of the people who are owners of property may not be that sophisticated. So, anyway.
So moved.
So you're moving the resolution. Okay, moved by Mr. Dudley. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Diaz. Now, is there any questions, comments from the floor? Yes, sir.
I just had two questions. First of all, about the employment, you said you had operators that are fully staffed to, I guess, hire staff to, yes. So I'm wondering how many, do you have any expectation how many people this would employ?
Right now we're focusing on a smaller staff, but over time we'll be focusing a lot more on the part-time individuals like the bartenders,
Okay.
the waiters, etc. Right now we're starting off with a two-person
Okay.
full-time staff, but as the venue grows and the amount of events grow on an annual basis based upon our marketing dollars, we're looking to increase that.
And the other question I have, and I'm just for my own personal knowledge, I'm just curious. You mentioned parking. For 250 seating capacity, what are we looking at in terms of what would be available for free parking and for paid parking from what you don't know?
I certainly have the numbers. I have
Okay.
all included in here, and I can certainly get that for you. I'll give you my contact.
Don't
for
even-
the event,
okay.
but,
There is a 1,000-car parking deck
Oh.
on South 6th Street, less than a block from this.
But that's paid, right? I mean, you have to pay to, I think, I'm just asking.
Yeah, if anybody utilizes the parking deck, will have to pay as you would street parking,
Yeah.
as you would any
Okay.
surface level parking.
Okay.
And that'll be actually factored into the